Hey, random people out there on the internet. Time for the next step in our second project, the birdhouse. Earlier videos, I took a really nasty looking 2x4 and chopped it up into strips. You can go back and watch those if you like. In any event, what I ended up with was a bunch of 3/8 inch strips that are about 11 1/4 inches long. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to glue these up so that we make panels. All right, so the way we're going to do that, we're going to start with some blue tape. We're going to put blue tape right down the center of each joint. Now you may be wondering, if I'm going to be gluing it, why am I using tape? I think that will become readily apparent here in just a few minutes. But I want every joint taped up really, really good. Oops. Now I'm going to turn it over, and now it will become, well, I don't like this one. I'm going to change that a little bit. Not loving it. Not that it matters, it's a birdhouse. But being somewhat OCD, I just didn't like it. All right, so now what we're going to do, show you the reason for the tape. We're going to use our glue, and we're going to put glue in these joints. But since I put that tape on there, all I got to do is just split it open a little bit and run a bead of glue in between. And since it has tape on the back, this board won't stick to the board under it. It'll stick to the tape. Now you see all that glue squeezing out? The technical term for that is squeeze out. But it's not a big deal, because you can just wipe off a lot of it. When you get a big bulk of it off, then you're going to go ahead and get you another towel and wet it down, because a wet towel will pick up the glue a lot better than a dry one. This one here is just to get the biggest, bulkiest part of it off. And we'll get a towel and wet it down a little bit. Take that wet towel and run it down there and pick up a lot more of that glue. And we'll take a dry one, dry it up a little bit. Now, if you haven't ever used wood glue, you probably need to understand that wood glue is a little different than contact cement. Contact cement means exactly what it says. Basically, it contacts two different surfaces and they go together. With wood glue, however, wood glue bonds with the wood. So what's going to happen is that when we apply pressure and squeeze it together, that glue is going to seep into the pores of the wood and become virtually part of the wood. A good glue joint will never break. If the thing breaks, it's going to break somewhere besides that joint. So now we need to go ahead and get some pressure going. And initially, if you're doing this, you want to just put a little pressure on there because it's going to try to buckle. Okay, that's something we got to be aware of. Now, since we know it's going to buckle, we need to be prepared for that. I'm going to show you an easy way to deal with that as well. You can see more squeeze out coming out, so we'll just go ahead and wipe that off again. Try to get as much as we can. This project's going to end up being painted, so this glue is not really a problem. However, if you're using stains, okay, you're going to want to get every bit of the glue out of the way. The reason for that is that stain doesn't stick to glue the same way it sticks to wood, and you'll have marring that'll show up when you put that stain on there. But again, that's a birdhouse. And you know what? I don't think the birds care. No, I don't. Now, what's going to happen when I try to squeeze these really tight, it's going to try to buckle like this along those seams. So we're going to put this guy here, grab this weight, put it on there. So now when I go to squeeze in these clamps, it's going to hold it nice and tight. I've seen people take and squeeze the ever-loving life out of the stuff, and frankly, it's just not necessary. You have to have enough that those pieces are good and tight together, but squeezing them tighter isn't going to make that much difference. Just being honest, you know, there may be others that don't agree with that, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. Now, through the magic of video, we're going to flash forward and show you the results. All right, we're back, and there's the results. Now, if you look close enough, you're going to see a lot of imperfection here. For instance, there's a little cupping going on here. The surface isn't very flush. Again, it's birdhouse, and what I'm going for here is kind of a rustic look anyway. But in the interest of trying to get it a little bit better, we're going to go ahead and sand it down a little bit and try to get some of the ridges off of it. And when we have all of our pieces cut, we'll cut the edges so that they're all the same size. So we'll be back in a minute and do some sanding. All right, we're back. Now, we were talking about sanding this down. If you had a planer, I have one, but we're trying to keep this simple. You just go ahead and plane those surfaces, and then it would be completely flat. I'm not really worried about it being completely flat, but it does give me an opportunity to go ahead and try to smooth it a little bit, make it a little bit better. This is a random orbital sander, DeWalt, battery operated, and I put an 80 grit paper on there. Let's talk about that for a second. Whenever you're looking at sandpaper, you'll have grit count. Basically, it's the number of particles that are on the sandpaper per square inch. This is 80 grit. You can get 60, 80, 100, 220, 400. And as the number is lower, it leaves a rougher surface. But when you're trying to sand down a project and it has a lot of discrepancy in it, you want to start with a low number and work your way through the grits because sandpaper will get hot. And if you have like 220 grit when you begin, eventually you're really just rubbing it and not sanding it. So let's take a look. We could go on and on until I have it perfectly smooth. But again, this is a birdhouse, and I wanted kind of a rustic feel and look to it anyway. It's going to be mounted outside, so people aren't going to see it that close. So that brings me to my next subject, imperfection. You know, we talked about this in project number 1. Your first couple of projects aren't going to be perfect. You're going to have issues, and there's going to be some things you're going to wish that you did differently or better, etc., etc. That is the nature of learning virtually anything, but especially in woodworking. Here's your secret. Number 1, you can either live with it, you can fix it, or you can hide it. Number 2, end user typically doesn't really notice or care. And in this case, the end user are birds. Now, I'm pretty sure that the birds will appreciate just a place to stay, and they're not going to worry about whether or not all my edges are perfectly straight or that the wood is sanded down super smooth or any of that sort of thing. The whole thing about it is that we're trying to learn our tools and learn how to do things with wood, and this is a beginner series. As we progress, we're going to get a little bit more picky, but right now we're just trying to get the job done and have a fun time learning how to do woodworking. I appreciate all your views. I appreciate when you share with others. I really appreciate your subscriptions. So feel free to leave me some comments, pluses or minus, good or bad, it's all good. In the meantime, as always, be safe.